you and I used to be in love with wrestling back in the day.
At one time.
Josh was a rapper back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And Q Strange. And he used to open and tour with the Insane Clown Posse, right?
Did a lot of events with those guys.
So these guys are heavily affiliated with wrestling. And back then they had, and they still do, to this day, have a huge following, you know?
And it was their Christmas party show that they did in Detroit. It was a big thing they do every year, and they include the wrestling thing. At this time, they had their own wrestling like federation that they were doing, and they had a lot of guys who were real popular back in the day would come back and wrestle for these events. So we did this one, and I'm trying to think who was there for wrestlers. This is a bunch of guys, but a couple that
I know who was there.
But a couple I remember was Disco Inferno, if you remember him. He was
Sure.
there. And Razor Ramon, of course, the great Scott Hall.
Now, I want to stop you for a second. When Josh moved down here to start his job, he was staying at my house for a while until he found his place, which is where we happen to do the recording here today. And Josh told me the most disturbing, amazing story I think I've ever heard. And being that we came from that era of being huge wrestling fans, you have to tell this story.
Yeah, well, as was I, a huge wrestling fan also.
Right.
You know, back in the day when I was a kid. But names like Razor Ramon, I mean, these are like big stars to me, like childhood
Hall of Famer.
celebrities. Yeah, for sure. So right off the rip, this show was very different than any other show that I've done. First of all, because I was performing in a wrestling ring, which was kind of weird. And one of the weirdest things was because it was their Christmas party, they had like guests of theirs with them too. And, you know, I was kind of in that little VIP squad for the night because I was playing the show.
Right.
So I'm in the limo and I'm looking around, and I got with me is Razor Ramon, Disco Inferno, and St. Clown Posse. The lead singer from Color Me Bad, who apparently is friends with the dude from Insane Clown Posse. I don't know how these two connected, but for some reason he was around too. I'm hanging out with these guys upstairs. It's like a VIP area. We're drinking all night long.
Right.
Now, Razor Ramon was partying his ass off. You know, these guys took a beating their whole careers, and a lot of them are on, you know, they have to take pills and stuff because they have so much pain and shit. And so when you start adding alcohol to the mix, I mean, the guy was a mess. So we're heading home the end of the night. I mean, this guy could barely speak. You know, we went to the drive-thru McDonald's. He's like...
Which, to be fair, he could barely speak to begin with.
Right.
Right, but you should have seen him in this. He was like... griddle. But through all that gurgling...
Right.
He did manage to look back at me and say, hey, Q, I'm not a fucking faggot. But you look pretty sweet, brother. Now, he's saying this to me in front of, like, Color Me Bad, and, like, everybody's, you know, and everyone's like, oh, shit, you know? And I'm just kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, thanks, man. Now, we get back to the hotel, and I'm kind of scared now because he's looking at me with that gleam in his eye, you know, he's kind of got, like, a little bit of drool coming down the side of his mouth, and he's like, that ass is mine.
Oh, yeah.
And,
you're getting a figure 4.
Listen, if fucking Scott Hall wants to have anal sex with me, I'm not stopping him. There's nothing. There's I can't stop him.
There's a few people you might lose that fight to. And
Yeah.
A wrestler
I just
is one of
feel
them.
like, yeah, with his years of experience and brute strength, there's no resisting that. So yeah, we got back to the hotel, and I had to like just make a run for it.
And he's like 6'8" too, right? He's
a huge guy, and throughout the night he thought
kept
that,
bumping his head, didn't he?
He thought him and I wrestled together in Japan. He's like, I remember when we trained in Japan, and I'm like, dude, I'm a rapper.
I've never left Rhode Island.
Yeah, like I'm a fucking poet, man. I'm just here to fucking sing some poetry. And anyways, so we got back to the hotel, and luckily he had some issue at the front desk that he was going on where I was able to make a run for it when he wasn't looking, because there was no way I was stopping that.
Well, the best part is he tells me this story, so now like he's staying at the house. I'm leaving Scott Hall pictures like everywhere. You know what I mean? He's at work on a Saturday night, and like I know he's busy. It's like 2 a.m. peak time, and I'm at my respective club doing my thing. But I'll just go to Google Images, and like there's a picture of
Yeah,
Scott
I'll just get
Hall.
my phone and go ding ding, and it looks
like-
like, "Hey Chico,
Yeah, and it's like a sexy layout of Razor Ramon.
get ready for the bad guy."
And I'm like, and I'll put a caption like, "How's your night going, SA?"
When he hit you with that line, did anyone give you a line out? Did anyone try to wingman you? And
There
help
was
you out?
nobody that was like the lead singer of Calling Me Bad started serenading us. I mean,
Dream on, dream away.
it was gonna stop me.
Oh, that's great.
Nobody was there to help me that night.
Oh my God.
No.
I mean, you think of it like a guy hitting on you in a bar is no problem. You say no, and if it comes down to it, I can take you.
So
but-
how long ago was that? Like,
This is
if you had to
going
put a
back,
year on it,
I think this was about 2007, 2006, 7, around that time.
and that was like you were right in the thick of your thing.
Yeah,
right?
I was kind of like, I was still active and doing shows and touring and shit like that. But now this is like a childhood hero, which made
Right.
it even that much weirder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like if Shatner fucking hit on Bobby. It's like,
I would blow him.
There
I
you
would
go.
blow him.
There you
Just
go.
for the story. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, not in a gay way, but it's
Not
like
in a gay
Captain
way,
Kirk.
well, speaking of stories, you can hear lots more stories right here on Planet Platypus podcast on our segment called "What's Your Story?"
Woo!